I'm Jennifer Byrne. Welcome back to Book Club and a new release which I absolutely 100% guarantee will knock your socks off one way or another. It's called The North Water by Ian Maguire. I had never heard of it or of him, and I wouldn't normally pick up a novel about 19th century whaling that didn't have the name Melville on it, but I saw a review by Com Toy Bin describing it as darkly brilliant. I thought, we'll give it a go. And I was not seen again till I had turned the last page. A trip I went on. I've been busting to share, and tonight's the night, so stick around. While the favourite, thank you, Michael Robotham,
is The Other Hand by Chris Cleave.
This is the book, in fact, the first book you ever pointed me to. You love it, don't you? Deeply love it.
Years ago on a Christmas special, we had to bring our favourite book of the year, and I bought it, and you said to me, damn you, I was going to bring that book.
She's very rude, isn't she?
Yeah.
Despite that, won't you join me in saying a warm welcome to Marique, Jason, and the famously, yes, still bare ankles.
Sexy
I'm
ankles.
sorry.
Ben Law.
Get a load.
Give him a clap. So a quick look at what's happening in the book world first, starting with news of the saddest kind. Queensland writer Corey Taylor has died within weeks of publishing her last book, Dying, a memoir, which you praised so warmly, Marique, on last week's show. New books published include Kai Miller, Yaa Gyasi and Thomas Ridd. Plus, closer to home, William Lane's The Salamanders, Angela Slatter's Vigil, and, in fact, I've got it right here, from bestseller Leanne Moriarty, Truly Madly Guilty, about a relaxing Sunday afternoon barbecue that goes dangerously askew. This is the proof copy, but it will be in your bookstores tomorrow. Now to tonight's new release, with scenes of death, depravity and violence. It is Ian Maguire's The North Water. It is 1859, the dying days of the whaling trade, when Yorkshire whaler The Volunteer and its hardened crew head north towards the Arctic hunting zone. Aboard is Patrick Sumner, an ex-army surgeon with a taste for laudanum, and the ship's bestial harpooner Henry Drax, with a taste for blood and extreme violence. Yet as winter falls, the captain refuses to turn back, pressing ever deeper into the territory of ice and bears. Which of the men will make it to spring? Well, you know what I think about this book, so I'm going to go straight to you. What do you say, Jace?
I loved it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and I loved it from the first paragraph because the writing is so electric and so lively. And no, I thought it was brilliant. The characters, they're horrible, you know, they're, with the exception of one, I suppose, one or two. But the main...
And that's even scratching to find one nice one.
Well, that's right. And Drax is just such a good force of evil in this book. He's malign, foul-mouthed, bloodthirsty, revolting, and he's fantastic.
He's fantastic. He, in fact, is not really a villain at all. He is a monster. It's like a monster story, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, I thought it was absolutely disgusting and absolutely depraved, and I loved it so much. It was so foul and gripping, and I'm with you. I mean, I can't really find fault with it. It's just so full of blood and gore and sex and violence, and it just makes you want to join a ship and stab someone in the throat and then stab yourself and bathe in blood. And so it's not a relaxing read, but I just needed to be, you know, hosed down and de-loused and everything after reading it. It was fabulous.
Why is it so brilliant? I mean, I assume do we all agree? Are we all in?
I think it is. I think it is brilliant. I don't know if it's grippingly horrifyingly or horrifyingly gripping. I at times wanted to shower several times during the reading of single chapters. It is so bleak. It is so but it's beautifully written.
Yeah, the writing's fantastic. So energetic.
To the point where there's no redemption, there's no likeable characters, there's nothing to... I mean, this book makes The Revenant look like it was written and made by Beatrix Potter.
Ben!
I totally dug it. And it's hard to say that because in the first chapter there's this most horrific passage involving the rape of a minor, and yet you're like, this is so foul, this is so intense that I've got to keep reading it. What it actually reminds me of, the way I've been describing it to friends, is imagine if Ridley Scott's Alien was set on a whaling ship in the 1850s, because essentially you've got this claustrophobic environment and you know from chapter 1 that there is a monster on board.
They're all monsters,
All you need to
though.
know. Oh, Sumner's not a complete monster.
They're pretty
No one's as
dreadful.
monstery as
No,
Drax.
he's a monsteriest. But it's a cast of rogues. I mean,
And the good thing about it is that even though it is a cast of rogues, they're all delineated really well. The other thing that really struck me was the smell. He describes smells all the time
until they get out
into the sea, and then he drops it off, and there's more sound. But
Who knew
in the
that
city-
rotting whale blubber resembles the unspeakable rectal oozings
I
of
knew
the
you were
human
going to bring up the
corpse?
rectal passage.
Oh, no,
because that's
I'm
part
gonna,
that I thought you'd as well.
the one that I'm going to, if I may, this is my favourite. I mean, it's hard to pick just one, but there is a scene in there where there's a slight surgical moment where an abscess stomach is sliced open.
Not the abscess,
Oh,
not
yeah.
the abscess.
This is for anyone at home, put down your food, if I would suggest. As soon as he pierces the cavity wall, a pint or more of foul and flocculent pus, turbid and pinkish grey, squirts unhindered out of the newly made breach, spattering across the table and coating Sumner's hands and forearms. The roaring stench of excrement and decay instantly fills the cabin. Anna yelps out in horror and her brother drops the metal bucket. Sumner gasps and jolts backwards. The discharge is fibrinous, bloody and thick as Cornish cream. It pulses out from the narrow opening like the last twitching apogee of a monstrous ejaculation.
It's basically...
I mean, I was eating hummus when I read that. I am never eating hummus again. I held the hummus in my hand and I put it down and I was over for the hummus.
I bet you weren't eating hummus at the end of
No,
that.
I wasn't. It was over. Oh, God.
But I was thinking if you were on a TV show coming up, you put up this thing and you say, language, terrible, violence, extreme, number of animals harmed, many. Why do we love it?
I think the writing is so good. It's so sharp. His actual choice of words is great, and the way he strings a sentence together is really, really good. And I was struck literally by the first paragraph about how good it was.
Yeah. Well, what I love is its first lines, because it does completely take in the whole tradition of I mean, it's like a Cormac McCarthy meets Joseph Conrad meets Edgar Allan Poe
Meets Jack London.
Jack London. Yeah, that's absolutely. And it starts, behold the man. And that's how it's, and you eat this, not even lengthy, but this potent, extraordinary description of Drax. And that was it, page 1, I could not stop reading.
I think the other thing as well is it sets up a world that I didn't think I'd be very interested in. This is 1850s whaling ships, and he paints it so vividly and convincingly. The details about how whale blubber is so central to people's lives, how petroleum gas and paraffin is a new fad, for instance. Those details
It's
are
lost world, isn't it?
It's this lost world, and he is completely putting you in there. I was immersed in that environment, and I think all the things that we're talking about, like the smells, what it feels like, the cold against your skin, he completely draws you in to the point where the world suddenly feels familiar. But you know that as soon as you close the book, it's utterly alien. But you're right there. What
to me was so exciting was it is fundamentally, though it is a thriller and it is an adventure yarn and it is a maritime story, it is fundamentally an historical novel. And it is
Quite
almost like
old-fashioned in
it's
a-
created like a new kind of historical novel where it's not all about so-and-so took tea in these kind of cups or with those kind of shoes. It's just, it takes us to this world.
No one's drinking tea in this book.
Yeah,
That's
I think
blood,
my
maybe.
issue again, it comes down. I mean, there's not enough blood in Hollywood to make this into a film. I mean, it's almost as though, if you can describe something beautifully in 2 paragraphs, some act of absolute butchery, why not spend 8 paragraphs describing?
Because you can do it so well.
There is one reservation, but I'm not sure if it's a complete reservation, is that there is this key change in the book, probably 2/3 of the way in, where it goes from horror to suddenly almost a Dances with Wolves type vibe. And as much as I'm not convinced about that, structurally it's written so beautifully that you do become completely compelled with these encounters with an Inuit
I
community.
thought the book needed that because I think if we stayed on that boat or with that group of people for any longer, we'd all
there was a
be
part of me that
mildly
wanted
I know
to
what
have
you
a big
mean.
showdown.
It
with-
did lift
with
the
that.
tension.
I think that the tension was. I mean, I rarely have I read a book with this much narrative tension, but most of that was caused by the fact we're thinking, oh my God, what horrible thing is going to happen next? Because it was just one horrible thing piled upon another.
Oh, it was so great, wasn't it?
And the only thing I would say is, rather than reading it more quickly, I read it more slowly. Partly, I always read a book more slowly when I love the language of it. But also, it was almost like when something incredibly violent happened, I said, I'm going to have to put that down for a little while because
Yes.
I don't want to go back to that book just now.
In short, would you recommend it to people?
Certainly the language I would recommend to anyone that's interested in reading beautiful prose. But there are other people I think you've got to have a strong stomach to tackle it.
Yeah. Is he the new Cormac McCarthy?
It's very Blood Meridian-like, isn't it? I mean, in a sense, it did remind me of that a lot.
But it's not
I
sort
thought
of
it was
biblical.
much
like,
more fun
it's
than
not
Cormac
biblical.
McCarthy. I had
Yeah, it was
much
rompy.
more-
Yeah.
Yeah, it was rompy.
Because
Cormac
there is a lot of
McCarthy's-
violence that you need to put the book away, but for some reason this kind of violence had me leaning in, like, tell me more. And I don't know what the difference
You're all
is.
sick
And it's not
puppies.
it's not cartoony and it's not light by any measure. But there is something about it that it's not meant to completely repel. It's just there to say
It's the way it
this
was.
is-
He's
this is the
saying
way it
that's the way it was.
Yeah.
I'm telling you the story of the way
It's
it
world
was.
building.
Would you recommend people?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes, certainly. Certainly.
Oh, everyone.
So, rare unanimous vote. It is an extraordinary book. Let's move on from treachery and death and see what else we've been reading. And I'll start because, look, more ice. Icebergs everywhere. This is Catherine Carlyle, the 10th novel by Rupert Thompson. The reason for the ice is it's about a woman a young woman whose mother's just died. She's lost, she believes, her father, who's a foreign correspondent and never can be found. She disappears. She's in Rome, she disappears. She goes on this long journey deeper into conditions. She ends up in the Russian Arctic, but also into danger. And I'll leave it at that description. It's a book of ideas because the compelling thing for her, she was an IVF baby. She'd actually been a frozen embryo for 8 years, and this shapes her view of who she is, and she's this frozen soul.
Crikey.
Interesting idea. Interesting idea. Philip Pullman says it is Rupert Thompson's masterpiece. I don't think so, but I read everything Rupert Thompson writes. It's very good. Jace.
I have been reading a book called Moments in Time, a book of Australian postcards, which is it's a sort of history of Australia between 1900 and 1920, told through postcards. And it's fascinating. It's a lovely idea. It's by Jim Davidson, published
National
by
Library?
National Library of Australia. And yeah, I think it's a gorgeous book. Look,
been
here's
looking-
the Spirit of Progress. So there's some stuff from the 50s, but it's a really
beautiful one.
it's.
I've
and
been
all
looking at
photographs.
the NLDA books for quite some time. They
There's some good
have these
ones.
great ideas, and it's
Yeah.
all this way they get to use their old images and their own.
Yeah, so it's full of all these amazing postcards. It's great, and there's there's a lot of information, and it's not postcards and what's written on the back. There's commentary by Jim Davidson, who is a historian and biographer.
They've got some smart publisher there at the National Library.
Yeah.
Ben.
I am reading Viet Thanh Nguyen's The Sympathizer, which won the Pulitzer Prize this year. My book club had assigned it, and I went to the book club hanging my head in shame because I hadn't finished it, so I'm still reading it now. And this writer, Nguyen, has really come out of nowhere to clinch the prize because it's his debut novel. He is a Vietnamese American, and he's felt that throughout his entire life in America, the Vietnam War has only been told in one way and one way only. So this is his satire on the Vietnam War as told through the eyes of a communist sympathiser in the form of a confession letter. The structure of it's really, really interesting. It's dense reading to begin with, but then one thing happens in the book and you rush towards the end.
Michael, we're going to come back to you because you do have something on your
I do.
bedside. But there's a reason that we're going to hold that for a little bit later in the show. Mysterious.
I had the pleasure of reading My Name is Lucy Barton by Elizabeth Strout, which is a very beautiful, simply written book about intense family trauma. And I really enjoy, going from the vivid language of this is very simple language, but the bubbling underneath is a lot of distress and family division, and I just adored it. I thought it was wonderful.
Now, before we head off to discuss Michael Rowbotham's favourite, I thought we would take advantage of having a former bookseller in the house, that is you, Mr. Law, to have a chat about covers, because we all know that saying, you know, don't judge a book by its cover, but of course we do. And in fact, that is precisely what we're meant to do, because book design is a very big business. So having spent years watching people, you know, at the till, buying something, how important do you think the cover is?
It's monumentally important. So in the 5 years I worked as a bookseller, you often get questions like, it's a book and it's got a red jacket, or it's the one with the face on it, or it's the stripy thing, it's got stripes on it. People very rarely remember titles, or they just remember a bit of the author's name but not the whole name. But if they remember something about the book because it's flashed up on the screen or they've seen it recommended in a newspaper, that's often what they come in and ask about.
And you, because you're working in the crime thriller zone, the rules on covers for that are extreme.
Yeah, no, and the rules now have changed dramatically also because of the way people buy books. In the past, a cover had to look, you know, stand out on a row of books in a bookshop. Now it has to look great at being the size of a postage stamp on an internet site, where that might be all that someone can see, and yet it still has to, amongst all that list of books, it has to stand out for them.
In fact, I remember reading somewhere quite recently that the rise of Amazon and all those sites, yellow has become huge. For some reason, there's this almost superstitious belief that yellow is going to sell online.
My new Dutch cover is bright yellow.
Wow.
What about you? Do you pay attention?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm quite judgy.
What gets you
Anything
in?
with a high heel and a glass of champagne in it, I will burn. I just got to set fire to it. Oh, it's got bubbles on it. Oh, that looks like a fun read. No. So that's why I judge negatively, really.
There was a spell with rural romances. There was always a woman on there, and she had a hat on, and there was red earth and purple in there, and.
And that amazing title, my favourite book title ever, 50 Bales of Hay. A sexy book, a sexy rural
I'd
romance.
read that.
Well, there's a whole business, as I said, about how to catch your eye, and each genre has its own coded messages. So I thought here's something I prepared, a little quiz I prepared before. I
love
know.
a quiz.
It's very good. You'll get this romping in. So I'm just going to one for each.
Get a romp it in.
And I want you to guess the genre or type of book, and just give me a really quick idea what you think would be in this book. And you're first, Jason. What is this book selling?
Well, it's a thriller. It's some sort of thriller.
It is a thriller?
I mean, it does actually say thriller on the front. Which, that really helped me.
It also says Ancient, Unstoppable, Unleashed.
Well,
Where is it set?
Judging by the somewhere in the and there's ice and there's red blood and some terrible.
More blood. But I do love that gore down the spine. Okay, Ben, what's this?
That looks like it could be a memoir.
No, in fact, I should say
No?
it's the same category. It's a thriller, but what is particular about it? What is this telling you?
Oh, okay. It looks like we're driving into the night or into some sort of vortex.
Oh, see, I'm just looking at this.
it's like
all the cross out. It's a crazy person.
But this feels a little bit more vague to me, I think. Like it could be a
And we're going to move on.
No,
Okay.
we've failed.
You have
We've found
totally
television.
Michael, what would this belong to? What genre?
General fiction, probably aimed at more at female readership. You're looking at a soccer mum on the front cover, really, with a broom in one hand and a soccer ball under her feet. And yeah, I'd say that.
And that is, in fact, exactly right.
Straight to the
Yes, very good.
Top class.
The only bit you didn't have, which is it's of the quirky genre.
Oh,
You know,
Help
the
us
man
all,
who jumped out
great.
the window, or
Oh, yeah,
all
yeah.
those quirky ones. A lot of
Yeah.
them coming from Scandinavia. And yours,
Oh.
what's this one?
Oh, that's for teenage boys with erections, by the looks of things. I say it as I see it. Look, how is that he's got a giant something in his hand that's clearly...
It's a bat. It's a fantasy series.
And dudes are going, yeah, it's just like me, I'm a Viking, except I'm still wearing a school blazer, and yeah.
Teenage fantasy will do.
Well,
Very good.
right.
Well done. Time now for one of Mr. Rowbotham's most loved books, Chris Cleave's The Other Hand. It's a story told in two voices, both women. One is on a happy holiday with her husband. The other is being chased by wild men with machetes when their lives coincide on a Nigerian beach. The book is actually set a couple of years later after that spectacular collision. We are now in Britain. I'm going to leave it to you, Michael, to tell us more.
So it's told through the eyes of two women, as you say. One of them is Little B, a 16-year-old Nigerian asylum seeker who is sort of accidentally released from a detention centre in Essex. And she turns up on the doorstep of Sarah O'Rourke, the woman that she'd met 2 years earlier on the beach. And those events 2 years earlier, you know, they're shocking, they're violent.
And we can't say too much.
We can't, but they do lead to, I suppose, a free fall or a snowballing, which sees Sarah's marriage and the state of mind of her husband all affected. We talked about in the previous book, you know, The North Water was a book with a dark heart. This book has got, I think, a beautifully soft and generous heart and an affecting heart. I think Little B is one of the great voices, right from that opening line where she likens herself to a pound coin. Here she's a little girl, because the pound coin is welcome everywhere. It's welcome in any shop. You know, people love having, they can buy them things, whereas a 16-year-old Nigerian asylum seeker isn't welcome everywhere. And her voice is the voice that I think gives this book so much heart. I found it deeply affecting, shocking, funny. This is a book that has a message, but I don't think it's too heavy-handed. Others may disagree, but I love this book.
Ben, what do you think?
I thought it was a small miracle of a book. I think when you start out as a writer especially, there's this whole weird obsession about finding your voice. You've got to find your voice. And I think what this novel really demonstrates is the value of finding other people's voices. I mean, he's doing something incredible here. He is this, I assume, middle-class white guy in Britain, Chris Cleave, and he is writing from a teenage Nigerian girl's perspective in first-person voice as well, and does it so convincingly. I mean, it's such a...
He did take a bit of flack for that.
Yeah, but I understand that. It's such a gamble to do it, but I never questioned the voice when I read those chapters narrated by Little B. I think, like Michael says, it's also really hard to write a story about something like asylum seekers and make people want to read it, because it sounds like such a worthy subject matter. You're going to read this book out of obligation. You're going to...
And you're a bad person if you won't read
exactly,
it.
Exactly. You've got these social obligations, all of that stuff. But there is something that is so compelling about the book. I mean, you kind of pick it up and you've gobbled it up and it's gone.
What about you?
I thought it was terrible. I'm sorry, Michael. I'm so sorry. I know, and we're friends, and that's... we may not be after this, but I thought it was chick lit dressed up as something important. It was like Bridget Jones mentoring a World Vision child. That's what it felt like to me. I'm sorry.
I wasn't wrong. I'm just saying sharp.
I give my opinion.
Sharp.
I just thought it was so cute. It dressed everything up in this sickly, saccharine voice that I didn't believe for a moment.
You mean B's voice or the author's voice?
Everyone. And I thought they were appalling characters. I thought the woman,
Little
Sarah,
B was
was
an
appalling.
character.
No, I thought Little B was like Balky from Perfect Strangers. She was like a sitcom character. The observation she made was so cute and was so written by a white middle-class guy from England who was saying, she makes this observation going, oh, we saw the movie Top Gun. There were no guns in it. It was just a man who wanted to get places fast. It should have been called The Man Who Wanted to Get Places Fast. I just thought, oh, come on. It was just this cute book for white people.
Wow. You know what I would say, though, just on the style, there probably have been other better books written about asylum seekers, but, you know, I bet you they didn't have millions of people who read them.
Well, that doesn't
in some cases where you're intending to write a moral thing, and this is, I totally agree. This is the moral antidote to the amorality of Northwater. I think sometimes you do have to compromise, but I mean, maybe, you know...
I don't have to compromise, do I? No.
Well, fair enough.
And the thing is, I mean, I just not quite sure what it was trying to say. And I eventually read the back of the book, and I think the book was saying, the back says, how much should you give up your own life in order to help another? And I thought, well, if that's what he's trying to say, then I don't think he's necessarily succeeded, because I don't think that came through.
I must admit, I'm with Marie. I felt hugely manipulated with this book. And I felt that what Chris Cleave wanted to do with the book, which was to make those points, I thought that got in the way of real-life characters, I'm afraid. There are moments in it when you are horrified and you are moved. There's no doubt about that. But I felt that his intentions were too transparent, and consequently the novel in itself didn't really work.
But I do think that there were moments, which was like we're talking about when Little B is in England, but quite early on when Sarah, the magazine editor, she's on some freebie holiday in Nigeria with her husband after recovering from an affair to their marriage, and when the horror comes, when the men with machete are there come. She actually has this moment where she looked at herself and she's sitting there on this free holiday in this sort of green bandeau bikini made by Hermes and I'm thinking, what am I doing here? I came for a little adventure. I mean, I suppose it registered with me because I go to play, and I thought it's a really good question, and I think that's what I would forgive a lot of the infelicities for the way it actually involves you, it connects with you.
There are so many of them. I don't think I don't care about life at the magazine. There's too much emphasis on what goes on at the magazine.
I think that stuff is really necessary because that's a familiar
That's us.
world
That's
to
us.
me.
That's trying to show that the clash between
those are
these
people
two
I know.
from
That's
different
sometimes
worlds.
me as well. I think, like Michael was saying, 8 years later, it still feels really relevant, and it's going to be relevant for a long time.
And Michael, we're coming back to you now because that book by your bed was also by Chris Cleave. It's his latest. Tell us.
It's his latest. It's called Everyone Brave is Forgiven. Some of the stuff that Marique said about and Jason said about feeling manipulated in The Other Hand, I actually felt in this one. It's a World War II Blitz London love story, or love triangle really, between a woman and two best friends. Mary North is the woman. She's an upper class sort of English woman who joins up the first day war is declared, and these two best friends, it's a love triangle between them. My only issue with it, I think some beautiful, beautiful set pieces and beautiful scenes in this and dramatic scenes in it, set against a big, powerful backdrop. But the dialogue and language in it is so Noel Coward and Oscar Wilde-ish. I mean, I love really sparkling, clever dialogue and back and banter, but there are times for banter and there are times when the bombs are falling where this whole upper lip pluckishness of the British character, just be scared, don't banter, just be scared. I just found it, didn't quite work on every level for me.
Okay. We're back into the end of the show. And the last word tonight goes to an avid book club watcher and a very brave soul. At the beginning of the series, I offered the audience Annie Proulx, her new book. And here's what happened. Yes, yes, the gentleman in the back row. Thank you very much. Barkskins is yours, but you have to report back, okay? That's the promise. Yay or nay?
Or you could just use it to work out,
Okay.
one of the two.
We'll give it to you at the end of the show. Stick around. That gentleman is Andrew Buchanan.
And we've never seen him again. So that was a terrible.
Marique's joke about the lifting arms. That's
Still reading.
Jennifer's going to wave her magic wand in a minute.
I am, and he's here. He's right here. His book reading is complete. Andrew, tell us, what do you think?
Annie Proulx. Vast, rich, complex, and at times quite funny, which surprised me. And would I read it again? Definitely.
You would do the whole thing again.
Do you have
liked it that much.
in your life to do that?
Well, I'm not a famous TV star, so
But you are a book clubber. Same.
and weightlifter.
And if you weren't before, you are now.
In short, 1 to 10?
7.
Okay.
Not bad.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I appreciate it. Here is covers being the theme of the night. Here is the new cover, because you got the brown proof, and we'll swap it with you at the end of the night.
But I can keep this one, can't I?
You can have them both. Thank you very much. Why don't you join me saying thank you to Andrew. Now, we have run out of time, but just enough time to thank tonight's book clubbers. Thank you, Michael, Marique, Jason and Ben.
You were lucky.
No
I
good
didn't
sidling
rip
up
that
now.
microphone
I'm
off you.
sidling. I'm just going to.
Next week, join me for our final book club special, in which 4 stellar guests bring us the books that transport them to another century, another time or universe, or perhaps even within themselves. That place that books really do seem to get to so very well. It's a fabulous eclectic mix. We have Noel Pearson and Kitty Flanagan, John Birmingham and fantasy star C.S. Pacat. You would be mad to miss it. So see you then, and until next week, happy reading, good night, and so much thanks for your company. Bye.